And of course, that backfired in their face.
Absolutely, it did. Yeah, and I had mentioned this earlier. So De Niro, his move outside of the courtroom has costed him $30 million. A director said this: "I gave it to him because he's having a hard time finding work. Then he pulls that stunt in Lower Manhattan. I don't need that kind of negativity on my set." So that's amazing to me that Hollywood, there's a director out there that turns down a liberal for acting crazy. Is that not like, that blew my mind when I found out about that?
Nowadays, whatever I see, it doesn't really shock me necessarily, but yeah, it was. You never know what they're going to try to pull next, and to me, it just smacks of desperation all around.
Yeah, I mean, there's been this long-standing thought that being a conservative on the Hollywood will destroy your career, but maybe that's changing. I also saw Dennis Quaid on what's that English gentleman show? Pierce Morgan. Pierce Morgan said, "Who you voting for?" Dennis Quaid said, at first I was against Donald Trump, but then I realized that they're destroying the Constitution. So I'm going to vote for Trump. He might be an ass, but he's my ass.
I like that. I think that's I think you're going to see a lot more stories like that coming out in the press, especially in the coming days, because I don't think people are going to take what has happened today and do nothing.
Yeah, that is true. So this is what I'm worried about. Another implication here is World War III. Obviously, this conviction is horrible in itself, a destruction of our Constitution, but could it also be a distraction? Let's watch this and discuss.
Happens inside Russia. How do you feel about that?
I think that's the right decision. I think, Ukraine needs to get whatever help it can get in defending itself. And I think NATO has urged that we allow those strikes. France, Germany, Great Britain, Canada, Finland, most of our allies have urged that. I think it is important for the United States to provide a unified approach that allows the Ukrainians to strike at those targets.
I don't know where this Ukraine war goes. You always hear, Secretary, that right now Russia is.
So I think things are getting worse with Ukraine, and Alex Jones he's said a lot of crazy things, but he's also said a lot of things that have came true. And one thing he talks about that I believe he's spot on is we're actively in a misdirection campaign always. Like whatever you see taking place, there's something secondary that they don't want you discussing. And I just wonder, China is being really aggressive since the new Taiwanese president has been sworn into office. It seems Russia is doing well against Ukraine, and we're just putting more effort into that. But do you think that part of this might be a distraction campaign as well?
Well, I don't know. But what I will tell you is I agree with you on one thing. I don't like war. I don't think anybody likes war. Having said that, what worries me on an international stage is the weakness this president has shown. That really worries me. When you have a president like Joe Biden that demonstrates weakness every single time, it only invites more problems. And Exhibit A, I give you Afghanistan, and that nutty, crazy withdrawal where we just walked away from that military base that would have been ideal right now, especially with issues in China going on. We walked away from all that equipment, and now that whole country is essentially back under Sharia law. Women there can no longer go to school. I mean, it's like we were never there, but we enriched them with all of our bases and the machinery and guns and whatnot that we gave them. It's just as simple as this. We would like to stay out of those problems. But David, I'm going to tell you, I am really worried that when you show weakness, it only invites more problems, more wars. And if you're going to choose one way or the other, the worst position is the half measure. And that is what Joe Biden's always trying to do. He's always trying to walk in the middle somewhere. You never know where he stands one day to the next. I think if Ronald Reagan has taught us anything, and I realize I'm a little bit older than you, but one thing about Ronald Reagan is we were respected. I remember clearly as a kid, and I was just a young kid myself, when the Iran hostage situation was going on. I clearly remember we were just upset that the hostages were over there. And then I remember on TV, Ronald Reagan taking the oath of office, and on the other side of the screen was a split screen of the hostages being loaded on a plane to come home. When we were kids, the joke was, how'd you get out of Iran? And they said, Iran. And what was the weapon you used? I used a Reagan. That was what we talked about as kids.
Nice.
Yeah, a Reagan.
Yeah.
And the point is, they knew this man would push the button. He said what he meant, and he means what he says. You can't say that about President Joe Biden, and that puts us all under more danger.
It does. I think it was 13 billion that was left behind. And you can just see the difference in videos of how Trump was treated by the Prince of Saudi Arabia, a lot of the prime ministers in different countries, and the European Union treated respected Trump was. He's the alpha in the room, but Biden looks like he's just like asleep and completely disrespected. So Elise Stefanik has filed a misconduct complaint with the state of New York because this doesn't make sense either. This judge has been appointed to 3 cases related to Trump and Steve Bannon's case, and I believe Peter Navarro as well. The probability of a judge randomly being selected for 5 cases, it's almost like infinitesimally small. I don't know exactly how many judges they have in New York for this, but it just seems statistically impossible. So we'll see if anything comes of that. It seems like this judge was appointed and it was not randomly selected.
The whole system there is corrupt. I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's corrupt. I believe the accountant, I forgot his name off the top of my head, that worked with the Trump organization, he's serving in Rikers prison at 70-some years old right now because this Bragg guy re-indicted him, and his judge was Merchant. All of these cases were heard by Merchant. The odds of that is significantly, I mean, it's just, I think I heard like 1 in 80,000. Something like that, if it's truly a lottery system for the judges there. So the fix is in.
The fix is in, yeah. Here's another example of an account that doesn't even post politics. This is an aesthetics account. I don't post politics on this page, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I just donated the Trump 2024 campaign, and I fully endorse Trump as the next president of the United States. This is the final stand. Make America great again. So more people waking up and being aware that this is an issue. This is great. Tucker Carlson says, let me move us again. Let's see here. Import the third world, become the third world. That's what we just saw. This won't stop Trump. He'll win the election if he's not Cade first. I don't want to say that and get demonetized, but it does mark the end of the fairest justice system in the world. Anyone who defends this verdict is a danger to you and your family.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments completely, 100%.
Yeah, I want to hope that we can put the genie back in the bottle. Maybe I'm too optimistic. I mean, we did after the 1860s. Maybe it can be restored in generations to come. We will see. Greg Abbott says, this was a sham show trial. The kangaroo court will never stand on appeal. Americans deserve better than a sitting U.S. president weaponizing our justice system against a political opponent, all to win an election. We must fire